Almost everyone has at least one relationship with one financial institution. Practically all businesses, regardless of industry, require financial services at some point in time, be it credit cards, bank and time deposits, loans, insurance, or investments. But financials go beyond these. It evolves through technology, and rapid innovation has given birth to a long-term trend called fintech or financial technology. Fintech is a powerful trend. Electronic payments are steadily growing with a lot of room to grow exponentially. On top of this, we also have the rise of cryptocurrency and other blockchain technologies. With the ATRAM Global Financials Feeder Fund, investors can participate in growth of companies around the world that are involved with providing financial services. The fund gives you access and diversification to global financial names that we normally do not have locally. The fund also invests in fintech, which a normal financials fund would not. Invest in the biggest global companies in the financial industry. Participate in the global recovery. Diversify your investment portfolio by investing in this fund. Invest in the ATRAM Global Financials Feeder Fund. For more information, visit www.atram.com.ph.
The world around us is ever-changing. We are facing development challenges on a global scale. Today, 41 million out of 57 million deaths are attributable to non-communicable diseases. In the Philippines, 5 out of 10 families were deprived of basic education. The Philippines also ranked third in the top 10 countries with the most natural disasters. Women participation in the labor force is less than half at 48%, while male participation is at 77%. The United Nations identified and adopted 17 Sustainable Development Goals or SDGs to address the challenges faced by economies, societies, and the environment. We at ATRAM support the UN and the SDGs by launching the ATRAM Philippine Sustainable Development and Growth Fund. The fund is designed to invest in Philippine companies that score high in terms of the integration of UN SDGs into their operations and strategy. Through this fund, we hope to encourage PSC-listed companies to integrate UN SDGs into their businesses. We must work together to make a world a better place. ATRAM Philippine Sustainable Development and Growth Fund. Invest in a sustainable future together. Invest to thrive. Invest together. For more information, visit www.atram.com.ph.
Megatrends are shaping and influencing the global economy. Urbanization, technological innovation, resource scarcity, and demographic and social change. The long-term shifts in these trends create multiple investment opportunities. They gave rise to a new type of investing called thematic investing. Enter the ATRAM Global Equity Opportunity Feeder Fund. The fund invests into the themes that would benefit the most today, making it the first global multi-thematic fund in the Philippine market. Unlike traditional investing, thematic investing is not constrained to sectors or locations, focusing instead on themes and megatrends. It distills the megatrends to find relevant topics that work in this current market environment. It finds the next big thing and invests in it at a very early stage. With this multi-theme fund, investors will have exposure to various companies that will drive future market growth. What's more, you can invest in all the new developments in this world in Philippine peso or US dollar, making it accessible to everyone. Invest in the fund that invests in the stories of tomorrow, today. Invest in the ATRAM Global Equity Opportunity Feeder Fund. For more information, visit www.atram.com.ph.
Hello and good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to another exclusive ATRAM interview series, where we feature the top business minds of the country. I am JP Chong, Business Development Manager, and I will be your host for today. The telecommunications industry requires a leader that can bridge the world of infrastructure and consumer experience. Together in an industry that's constantly facing disruption, innovation, and the need for the culture that bridges these. We are very pleased and honored to have with us today Globe Telecom's President and CEO, Mr. Ernest Cu, together with ATRAM's Chief Investment Officer, Mr. Phillip Hagedorn, as they tackle the digital transformation in the Philippines and how Globe is at the forefront of this evolution. If you have any questions, you may send them as early as now by clicking on the Q&A tab below your screen. Before anything else, I'd like everyone to know that this session will be recorded. and that the copies will be disseminated within the day, and as well as posted on all our social media platforms. Also, please do not forget to visit our website. That's www.atram.com.ph for a more detailed information about all the funds that we offer. If you have any friends who you think would like this webinar but are unable to attend, feel free to share the YouTube replay of this session. You may do so by visiting our YouTube channel. That's at ATRAM Studio. Also, we'd like to invite everyone to join ATRAM's official Viber community group. That's hashtag ATRAMPH community to stay updated on the latest announcements, advisories, and reminders. Scan the QR code or visit the link found on your screen and get a chance to win ATRAM merchandise. We'd like this webinar to be as interactive as possible, so please do not hesitate to send in your questions in the Q&A tab all throughout the webinar, as we have a special prize for all of you. Each question you send is a raffle entry for a chance to win ATRAM merchandise. Winners will be announced at the end of the webinar, so make sure to stay tuned until the end. For any consumer-related questions, feel free to email Globe's Investor Relations team. That's ir@globe.com.ph. We'll also be sending a quick feedback survey after the webinar. So we do hope you can share your thoughts with us about our session for today and how we can further improve our webinar series. With that, let us move on to the part that we all have been waiting for. Today's moderator is none other than ATRAM Group's Chief Investment Officer, Mr. Phil Hagedorn. Hi, Phil. Happy to have you back. Let me now hand over the floor to you.
Good morning. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year, Phil. How are you?
I'm good today. I'm excited. Looking forward to this. Want to welcome everybody. It's a new year. It's a little bit of a rough start, but we're going to get through this as we have been getting through it.
Yes. Yeah, so the floor is now yours, Phil.
All right, JP. Well, thanks a lot, and want to welcome everybody today. We're super excited for today. It's our first interview series for the year, a new year, a year that's starting with some challenges, but challenges that we've seen before, and I think we've managed to overcome. And looking forward to how we overcome this one and move on and have a good year ahead of us. No? So today we have a very special guest, not just a guest, an old friend as well of mine, Ernest Cu. Ernest Cu is the president and CEO of Globe Telecom. As we know, the leader in the telecom industry in the Philippines. Under his leadership, that's when that happened. We'll talk about that today. His management has broken records across market segments and across the whole telecom sphere here in the Philippines, and clearly bringing Globe to the number one position. Globe. Ernest started in Globe in 2008, but before that was the president and CEO of SPI Technologies, which is where I got to meet him. Recall very clearly the launch of eTelecare, where I think he's been baptized as one of the fathers of the BPO industry in the Philippines. Ernest has won a bunch of awards. I mean, I think the only person I know that's won as many awards as this is either Lionel Messi or Ronaldo. For the last 10 years, he's been winning awards left and right, from Best Telecommunications CEO to Corporate Governance Awards to Excellence Awards, Power Awards, really clearly a leader in his field, and Globe's performance has shown that as well. Ernest is green inside, but the logo of Globe is blue, so I guess he's from all parts, and did spend time in Kellogg Northwestern for his MBA. So without any further ado, my friend, so good to see you. Welcome, Ernest.
Hey, Phil. It's great to be here. Good morning to everyone. And again, thanks for that wonderful introduction. I think the only thing I can glean from the length is that it shows how old I am already in business, right? But again, thanks again for that wonderful introduction. Really
You're not
appreciate
that old, are you? Come on, you're not that old.
it.
You certainly don't act it, that's for sure.
Well, you try. You try.
Why don't we talk a little bit? I mean, maybe just to get going here and talk a little bit about the past. Everyone likes to reminisce a bit. I was reading in an article about you that you were in the restaurant business. Is that right?
I mean, well, no, I co-invest in a number
No,
of
no,
these.
no. I'm talking about back in the U.S. when you worked for
No,
a company that actually.
it's not a restaurant. It was a print business. It was I rode the wave of the desktop publishing revolution, if you call it that, when Apple came out, the Macs came out, and they were disrupting how publishing and printing were being done in industry, and with digital coming into the fray. Right? So even in the 80s, I was really looking for these digital trends that I thought were going to take over industries and hopefully ride the wave of disruption.
How did you end up in the U.S. though? You obviously went to LaSalle and went to MBA in Northwestern. Is that how you ended up there after your
Yes,
MBA?
I took my MBA and graduated in 1984, and like I said, it's been eons ago. And decided to stay in the US for some time, given what was happening in the country at that time with martial law and stuff. And so, I ended up staying for the next 15 years until, the call came for SPI. They needed a CEO. And again, I saw that BPO at that time wasn't even called that. We had no name for the industry. Outsourcing itself but was a fantastic sunrise opportunity that could be developed and something that the Filipino talent was really geared for. And so decided to make a go of it. And I think, the success of the industry gives a lot of fulfillment that I made the right decision to go home at that time.
So you mentioned Filipino talent, right? And I think that's kind of a key for anybody building a business, right? I mean, and one thing that I always admired about companies like SPI and eTelecare at the time was how they could hire so many people so quickly and get them to be effective. What was the secret there? How do you do that?
Well, a lot of it is training and the training processes that we have. With the BPO or the non-voice side of the business, we developed very distinct assembly line-like processes where, we could scale up a particular need for a particular project, up to several thousand people at any point in time. And so really it's clever breaking up of the process to be able to make it tenable. You don't have special skills, but you need people who are dedicated, and it will do that part of the process really well. With eTelecare, we had the benefit at that time of the cream of the crop. You can imagine a BPO called in this call center industry that only hired from the top schools in the country. So being the pioneers, we had that opportunity, and from then on, we used that same talent to help us manage and grow the business moving forward.
Nice. And how did that kind of help you when you started in Globe? I mean, I think it must have been a key reason why people thought you would be the right guy, is putting these teams together, no?
Absolutely. I think it's creating a passionate team. That's always been the hallmark of the companies that I manage is, you get a group of people, get them passionate about the journey, create a very non-hierarchical, you would say, collegial atmosphere where people are happy to do the work. I've always believed in the tenet that happy employees create or bring about happy customers. And that has been a phrase that I've used a lot, in regardless of which company I work for. And I think it's proven itself out, even at Globe, where according to very well-placed consultants out there who do our surveys, Globe's employee engagement index out indexes most global companies in terms of their engagement. Because it's really, and I think in any business, right, regardless of whether you're in technology or in a people-based business like BPO, it's all based on people. People use the technology. Technology is just an enabler, if you would. No, even if it is indeed the product that we sell at Globe, you still, if it needs to be a very customer-centric organization to serve the customers well. And so engagement is very key factor. And actually, it's one of the first things we did at Globe when I joined was improve the engagement of the employees, improve their passion for the customer, and I think it's something that's really worked well moving forward as well.
Well, let's take that journey then. Ernest, I wanted to, we're stock nerds here, a lot of us today, and we like to connect the company's performance with the stock price, right? I think that kind of is the proof in the pudding in the end of the day. CEOs' responsibility is to add value to shareholders, and for public companies, there's no more public persona than the stock price every day staring in your face, right? I think we all see that. So let me share the screen quickly of what your journey has been, I guess, in Globe. Let's see if I can get this right. Get it nice and big. There you go. You see this?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I kind of wanted to put this up because, as a TV show, this is your life, right? And the way I like, I think we can tell a nice story today about the different periods in Globe's evolution since Ernest Cu took over. In 2008, I think it was the fourth quarter of 2008,
Yes.
you were officially appointed. And the stock price started at 1,000 and ended at 750 in that quarter. But that's kind of when you got in. And the way I see, my interpretation of these first few years is investors waiting, looking around, seeing what's this guy going to do? What's the plans? What's the team that he's going to build? Can you maybe talk about those first couple of years and what you did and to get Globe prepared for the Ernest Cu period?
Well, going into any company, right, you've got to assess and baseline the situation, or what you got yourself into, pretty much by way of the work that needs to be done. And at Globe, we saw that the company was facing, sort of a crossroad, right? It was in its crossroads where there was a shift happening, where we had actually been competing not so well in the area of unlimited voice, right? At that point in time, the networks in the Philippines up until that point were really built mostly for SMS. If you recall, we were called the SMS capital of the world, right? And everybody was using SMS, no one was calling. But and Globe really built its networks really for SMS, and when the competition from the third player at that time, Sun, came in and launched unlimited voice, we were unable to compete. And that resulted in, I think several years of market share loss. Right? And that's when I came in, it was the last year or the bottom. I think it actually bottomed out sometime in 2009, right? And
the stock was somewhere above 1,500, right, at the peaks.
Right. And then it came down to, I think you show a low of 660, which I don't even recall. I recall 700, right? Was the lowest point of that journey. But the good thing was, on the horizon, we actually saw another disruption about to hit the market, and that was the advent of mobile data. And so what we did was kind of declare, hey, you know what? I told everyone we've lost the battle vis-a-vis unlimited voice. Sun and Smart have won that, and but there's another battle coming up, and we should be gearing up for that one, right? And so we repositioned the company, and I say reposition, you change the company from top to bottom, right? And I guess as I said earlier, you start from inside the company. We had people's mindsets were set to that of a public utility. If you recall, public utilities are monopolies. They are where customers don't have a choice of who they utilize. All they can do is complain, but they can't really leave. If you think about water, if you think about power, we can scream all we want at our power and water suppliers, but there's really nothing we can do. We got to buy from them, right? Now, imagine a company like us where we're facing a very competitive atmosphere and having that mentality inside the company. In other words, we were not consumer-centric, right? And so we decided to say, if we're going to be working in a very competitive consumer industry, we've got to be very customer-centric. But we cannot be customer-centric if the people inside the company themselves are not happy, right? As I said to you, happy employees create happy customers. So we proceeded to change it and show people in the company that we value them, we treat them right, and they should be the ones. They should be the ones as a model that demonstrate that they can love their company, And so once we've got them, engaged to a certain point, then we turned and said, now we got to turn our passion and our focus on our customers. So it started with really looking at product and products we sell. If you recall, at that time, postpaid plans were fixed and not customizable. You can only buy this phone within this period of time. And you can only buy a plan with so many minutes and so many SMS and voice. There's no choice. So we quickly said, the market, we changed the market by saying we can now create plans that suit your lifestyle. Obviously, there's limitations to the customization, but it's a customized plan. Right? That was the super plan, if you recall, back in 2010. And then we proceeded to say, let's sell it in an environment that really is conducive to selling. And if you recall, we also changed and revolutionized telco retail with our stores. We had stores that you could actually play with handsets, make phone calls, browse the internet, without worry of, they said, you want to call the US, call the US. Right? Obviously, it's just, because the belief was if people get to experience the service, they will buy, right? And of course, the overall envelope for all of this was a repositioning of the company as a company that you need for mobile data, right? And at the same time, we looked at our infrastructure. Infrastructure, if it could not handle voice, will definitely not be able to handle data back then. Mm-hmm. I mean, data is a much heavier payload to carry for a network, right? And so we proceeded to consult the board and ask for funding to step up CapEx. I think it's 2x and replace the network all at once.
So when did you present kind of this pivot for Globe to your board? I mean, was that 2010?
About late 2009, I believe I recall correctly. It took a while. Remember, I'm a guy who came into the telco industry with no prior telco experience, no consumer experience. I was a B2B guy, right? But I guess the general entrepreneurial, sense in me was what prodded me to provide these strategies, right? So infrastructure, we went at that point in time and proceeded to replace the network and get it ready for data, right? At that time it was still 3G, but 3G everywhere, followed by 4G everywhere. Then we also proceeded to redo our IT systems, because the IT systems in telco were primarily batch mode systems.
So was this, I guess I'm curious whether the thinking was we need to do this because we have a plan, and to achieve the plan, we need this infrastructure in place. What was that plan? Did you say I'm going to get 55% market share, or?
Well, at that point, Phil, to be honest, the plan was survival, right? The market share is tanking, right? And if you do the same thing, it'll continue to tank. So we had to really take a different tack at the whole thing. And seeing that there was an opportunity because there was disruption coming, people were going to shift their usage from voice SMS to data. To me, that was the opening that we wanted, right?
When did you sell your first data package? What year was that?
Oh, I don't even remember what that was. Maybe such a long time ago, my friend.
Chart tells me 2011, maybe.
Okay, probably 2011. Okay. But it all came together, right? We created the correct mindset for our employees. We built the proper infrastructure. Then we layered on good products and sold it in a great environment like our Globe stores, which today are still unrivaled. Then got smartphones in people's hands, right? And the proposition there was, if you wanted to be in data, you got to go with Globe, right? And that was the positioning, and that was the overall. Right? Yeah, so we started to gain share in the second half of 2010. That one is crystal clear in my mind.
It's when you look at the stock price again, this period between sort of 2011 and 2015, I kind of call it the big grab, right? That's when you went from minus or under 35% market share to over 55% market share.
That's right.
In really a very, very short period of time. No? How do you, and in between, I have this little blue box there, that's 2012. That's kind of somewhere there, you launched GCash app, right? Which was the birth.
GCash is really was not an event until 2017.
I think what I want to point out is these things take a while, right? Sometimes.
Well, GCash was actually launched way before then. And GCash, I think no. I think it's even, maybe 2004. And but it was an idea way ahead of its time, right? For GCash to actually provide the proper experience, you needed smartphones and a 4G network, and that wasn't there. However, when I found it in Globe, the question for me was, should I shut it down and forget about it? But I felt very strongly that the problem that it was trying to address never went away. It's financial inclusion.
Right.
Filipino banking penetration never went past 35%. And as long as that problem remains unsolved, GCash has potential. It's just a product, dormant product, waiting for the right time and the right figures, right? And so moving on to GCash.
In Globe, just since you brought it up, a lot of these ideas that are incubating there, waiting for the right time.
There were a few, but GCash was the most prominent one at that time. I remember the mandate given whoever led GCash then was, here's a fixed amount of money you spend every year. You can't spend any more than that. And your job is to keep the brand in front of the public. That's it. You can do whatever you want, but just don't kill it. Just don't spend too much money. The time for the brand or the time for the product will come. But there is a plan, and we do review it every year. And I think the turning point came around when did Ant Financial come into Globe? It was 2018, I think. 2017. 2016, when I saw the smartphone penetration in the Philippines reaching critical mass. 4G networks were in place. Apps were pretty much in vogue already. And ubiquitous. I said, hey, it's time now to get this ready. So we spun it off in a separate company called Mint, put in a lot of high potential people, no longer placeholders, and got it ready for an outside investor, knowing we could not do that alone, right? And also I want to start value for the company.
Touch on that a little bit later, because that's the setup to the final stretch, or so far the stretch you're in. No? One more thing I wanted to kind of touch on in that big grab period is how you keep the team motivated as you're eating market share, right? How do you prepare? What do you prepare for? At some point, the competition's going to bite back. How are you managing the folks there and pushing them? You're probably breaking targets every year and just setting new ones. How are you motivating the team? Is it big bonuses or other ways?
That's part of it. Imagine it was. We came from a situation for years that people did not make targets, did not make budgets, did not make bonuses, right? So once we started doing it and we started hitting targets, and they were starting to see the benefit of that in their pocketbooks and their bank accounts, I think it just created that whole flywheel of motivation, right? That's why I said employee engagement is very important. We work like a group of friends on a journey to become number one, right? And and also I think leadership. Our team had a lot to do with it because we walked the talk, right? If you really wanted to be customer centric all the way down, you got to be customer centric from the top to the bottom, right? We didn't just say do it and we don't do it ourselves. So we had a very, you would say it's like almost like a sports team, where you motivate them and say, let's go, let's gun every quarter, we're increasing market share. One day we will be number one, right? And it happened in 2016. So it's really a series. It's like being a cheerleader, being the coach, the team captain of a sports team, and motivating people up and down the archipelago. I was going around the country all the time, motivating store personnel, field sales personnel, network people, keep building, keep at it. We want to have the better network and so on and so forth, right? And I guess it worked, right? It's human nature, right?
So, I think that, set Globe up fantastically for kind of that whole pivot. I wouldn't call it a pivot, but more focus, I guess, on technology and how you build beyond the basic telecom business, because clearly I think that is at least what I read from your plan, that Globe is a technology company that happens to have a telco business in there.
Yeah, again, just like what happened to us in 09, 08 timeframe. We don't want that to come and bite us once again when maturity of the telco business does happen, and I think it will. One doesn't have to be a genius. If you look at telco industries or telco companies globally, they're all pretty flat. They're all pretty boring, if you want to call it that. We didn't want to reach that point of zero growth before we started to build new businesses, right? So a few years back, and none of these things happen, by the way. This is not instant coffee, right? This is not like you turn on a machine and suddenly you have a great business. You have to lay the groundwork. So a lot of the people who are now doing innovation have been in the company for some time, trying to innovate, trying to do certain things, and suddenly when things are right, then it's time you give it a pop. Give it capital, you give it more resources, give them independence, and they start to grow. I also realized that throughout the period of Globe Telecom and any telco, actually, we are also, aside from building a great business, the side benefit is we're creating wonderful assets inside the company. Assets that could be used as a springboard for new businesses. And what are these assets, Phil? You have the wonderful customer base who trusts you, right? You've got data about customers, which is very valuable. You've got capital, which, again, a company like Globe is a very strong, cash-rich company. Well, not quite cash because we put everything back to network build, but, still decent-sized company. We got fantastic talent inside, right? We've got a great reputation for partnering with people. You can see our track record of partnering. We've partnered with almost every great content company. From the start was Spotify, then we brought in Netflix, Facebook, Google, Disney, name it. We're partners of everybody, right? And so our ability to partner and so on and so forth. And most importantly of all, we've got this innovation mindset, right? And so I've always felt that in order to sustain this growth of the company and its market value, you need to start incubating new businesses early on, right? And in the past, all this incubation was simply happening with me. I would get a few guys, let's start to incubate something, and then let's turn it loose when it's ready. But also knowing that that is not sustainable, because what happens when Ernest retires and leaves? That whole process falls apart. I decided to institutionalize that process and create an entity called 917 Ventures. Right? And so where the ideation, the incubation pretty much happens as a matter of course, and a matter of that's their business, is to find opportunities and start to incubate. Right? The same way we actually did GCash, if you think about it, right? You look for a consumer problem that needs solving, that is, either has been static in terms of the way people do it for some time, that is ripe for disruption, that technology and digital process can be applied, and see if we've got enough assets to give us the unfair advantage in competing in that particular space. Again, if you look at the blueprint of GCash, it's exactly that. It's exactly how GCash came into where it is today, right? And so
It's interesting.
Yeah, Phil, go ahead.
Well, it's we in 2017, right? I think it was the second quarter of 2017, where Ant Financial made the investment in Mint, and in the third quarter of 2017, in October, is when Jack Ma came to the Philippines. And if you Google Jack Ma Philippine internet, what comes out is the worst internet in the world, right? That whole statement. But what I did is I kind of read his speech of that day, and obviously the headlines are the headlines, and the press will do what they want with the headlines. But the most interesting quote I thought he said that day was, "Where people complain is where there's opportunity," and it seems to me that that's what you took to heart, rather than the fact that our internet was not that great, right? I guess the advent of smartphones had brought the internet closer to everybody, and the speeds were what they were. How did you guys? I mean, so that was like the beginning of, President Duterte talking very heavily and strongly against the telcos. Regulation now possibly changing, allowing foreign investment to come in. How is this new landscape shaping what you do, and your mindset, going forward here?
Actually, it didn't change anything, because we have really been trying to build. The only problem was that there were so many barriers for building, right? And I think this was all laid out when I had the opportunity to speak to the president and laid everything out for him. I think a lot of the solutions being put forth were the wrong solutions to the problem. You say, "Oh, the industry needs more competition to improve." And how can competition improve it when no one can build, right? Because the permits were onerous and the process was too laborious. 28 to 30 permits were required to build one cell site, right? So you do the math. How many can you do, right? So without streamlining that, it's not gonna work. And that's one of the reasons why today you've seen a lot of improvement, and with firms like OpenSignal and Ookla saying we're one of the most improved networks, or one of the improved countries in terms of network speed, because both telcos can now really build, given the fact that the ARTAL law and DILG are all monitoring the local government units in terms of their permit issuances. And I think that's really helped quite a bit, So, I think the opportunity was always there. Imagine, why wouldn't a company with such a great EBITDA margin, or companies with great EBITDA margin, not want to build more and sell more, right? It's just that we couldn't, right? Simply because it just took forever, right? You had LGUs in this country asking for their pound of flesh every time they saw your name, right, on a proposal to build a cell site, right? The what's in it for me took over. And so I'm glad that the president responded very well. I took the opportunity, because of a long-standing relationship with him, to be able to lay the facts and tell him finally what was going on. We were skirting the issue for fear of blowback from the LGUs. But I think it all worked out for the best, and everybody now, I think, is getting better service, all because of that conversation, Phil.
Oh, no, good. I can. So, could you say, like, in the last, what was the capex plan that you had in the last couple of years? Has it been kind of consistent with the previous years, or
it's been increasing?
Much more?
I think my first year at Globe, full year, the capex was $350 million. I think by my third year, it gone up to close to 800. And I think today, if I get my numbers right, what's 90 billion pesos? That's $1.8 billion, right? Yeah. So thereabouts, right? So it's huge. Because now remember, we not only have to build a mobile network, we also have to build the fixed line network because the public's need has changed as well, right? And again, admittedly, we're playing catch up to the Converge, who got a head start and decided to make the bet early on fiber. But we're not just simply gonna, sit by the wayside and let them take all the market share. We're gonna compete and compete fiercely like we did before.
Cool. No, great. I mean, I think obviously the last couple of years, one issue for Philippine companies is the lack of capex spend because of the pandemic. But I think it's been opposite for somebody like Globe, who's actually spent more every year, notwithstanding this pandemic that we're still hopefully dealing with the tail of it at the moment.
Yeah, we hope so too. Because it really affects us as well, in terms of revenue. As well.
Maybe on a more shorter term sort of thinking in terms of supply chains, parts, dealing with people supplying Globe with equipment. Are you feeling any of that stress that we're hearing about globally in terms of getting product delivered to you, getting?
Well, it's not the logistics aspect, but the chip shortage that we're concerned about. So we've had to do a lot of forward orders and reserve way ahead of time, issue POs way ahead to be able to guarantee our supply, both on the network equipment side as well as the modems, the phones, and whatever other parts that we need. Because there is indeed a real chip shortage, right? Globally, you can see it in the U.S. where cars are in short supply because chips aren't there, and so on, right? So it's been something that we've been able to manage. Knock on wood, it's not hurt us so far, and just making forward commitments and being able to predict a little bit longer and further out before, as opposed to just a shorter time horizon.
Great. What about just another question kind of on regulation here? This mobile number portability that everybody's talking about, you think that's an important law to pass or to get going?
Well, we can see that I think for the whole of 2021, all of 5,000 people across our 84 million subscriber base were interested in it. So then you tell me whether you think that's important or not.
I guess not so much. What about, can you comment a bit about the stock price? This has been a tremendous run the last couple of months. I know CEOs normally want to not say much, but you did a deal. There's a transaction recently that you can talk about, I guess. That kind of put a value on GCash estimate. Can you just talk a little bit about that and maybe about these foreign investors? Because one thing that we are, we're faced with as a country is obviously this recovery, and coming from an economy that's been decimated because of policy. Hopefully, this policy changes. We need the confidence to get back. We need the FDI to flow, but there have been many deals, even within the pandemic period, that show that there's still a lot of confidence in the Philippines. And I think one is this investment in GCash that we saw recently. And if you can talk about that a little bit.
Well, I think the amount of capital that's been flowing into the tech space in the Philippines has been improving. I think Indonesia has taken really the limelight over the last couple of years or 3 years. With their unicorns that are being formed over there, Bukalapak and so on, Gojek, Tokopedia. Those are the large companies in Indonesia. I think the investor community has already accepted Indonesia as a great destination for their funding. We were aiming to become the first unicorn in the Philippines, real unicorn, because there was a claim about a unicorn, but it wasn't really real. You know that one, right?
Okay.
We won't go there. And so we felt that GCash was indeed something that just needed to be talked about, right? And so we decided to pivot our conversation with our investor base sometime around the third quarter of 2021 and say, you know what, we've got fantastic assets we never talk about. And so we decided to expose it to the public. But already at that time, GCash already worth about $1 billion US. They had already achieved unicorn status sometime in October of 2020, right? When we brought in Bowwave Capital as a investor. You know, I always believed that you had to bring in outside money to truly establish the value of your company. You can't just all put up the money yourselves and say, hey, it's worth this much, right? Who's going to believe you, right? at that stage. And so, you know, we decided to bring in an outside investor. And then we said, you know what, we need a little bit more capital to take it to the next level. And so we went, you know, elephant hunting once again and really brought in some really big names. And, you know, interestingly enough, we got 2 partners to join us. Very early on in or late 2020, they were speaking to us, and we valued the deal at mid 2021, which probably people say could be a bit cheap at $2 billion US, right? You know, so we got Warburg Pincus, which is a very well-renowned firm, investment firm, and Insight Partners, again, a very renowned venture firm out of New York. You know, and so we raised $300 million. You know, validated the value of GCash at over $2 billion, and proceeded to grow the company. But you know, the growth was outpacing the valuation, to be honest with you. And I think those 2 companies are going to make a killing out of this, in all honesty, because the company turned profitable sometime in June, first on an EBITDA basis and now on a net basis, and that's continued to sustain growth. All right. And you know, and the company continues to build in a lot of use cases that the public will need to finally complete their financial lives. Right? You can go to GCash and in one stop do everything you need for finance. Right? From transferring money, paying bills, investing. You know, and again, very proud to have ATRAM as the first set of funds that were in that platform. I think you were also surprised at the distribution power of GCash. You know.
It's fantastic. It's you know, just really empowering and really feels good to be able to deliver service to so many people. You know, I mean, that's for us what really drives us is you know, we have this opportunity to get people invested in the best companies in the world. You know, in the Philippines and in the world. And
I think your fund that has the global tech companies in there, that's the one that I think people are really going after, you know, and under G Invest. So again, congratulations for the vision of putting that fund inside GCash. I remember that phone call you gave me when I was getting out of my car, and I said, let's do this, and we did it right within months.
No, it was you know, super. Like you said, I mean, timing is everything, and the timing was just right for it. You know, I think. Well, yeah, thank you also for helping us out there. One question we get a lot from customers, especially people buying, is about security, right? Cybersecurity, and how do we protect everybody, right? Whether it's a GCash investor or you know, you're doing insurance or whatever it is. Can you share some thoughts about how you treat security at Globe and what you're doing?
Well, security at Globe, cybersecurity at Globe is top of mind. You know, we're very fortunate to have a very good team of cybersecurity professionals and we started the journey of fortifying our defenses, you know, about 7 years, 6-7 years ago, and have spent close to $70 million US in just fortifying our resources. And the services that we've built inside Globe for ourselves, we extend to all of our subsidiaries. You know, we have a group security officer, and Anton Bonifacio, and he takes care and monitors all of the subsidiaries, including GCash, right? You know, so I think we've got a pretty solid system, but no system is infallible, right? You know, I always say my people, you know, it's not if they get in, it's how quickly do we know they're in, right? And how quickly we can eliminate them, because there's always going to be someone smarter than you, right? But in the case of the Gcash, and actually in the case of security and why people get scammed, it really is a matter of people giving out their information, right? Or we got people who use fake information. I think there were incidents that we've seen at Globe where people presented fake IDs, complete with all the information. They knew the number, they knew the name, they knew the address. The only thing that wasn't there was the face, right? They had the affidavit. It was notarized. It was the whole thing, the whole shebang, right? So it was planned, right? If you're really planned and targeted, I think it's going to be very difficult because probably your information is out there. One fear that I have, Phil, if you recall, during the early days of the pandemic, we were being asked to put our phone number and our email addresses, right? On those little pieces. Think about those, right? With an email address, you can do a lot of things today, right?
Sure.
That's one. The second incident, aside from identity theft, is when people fall for the phishing tricks, where despite the fact that we warn people, we will never ask for your password or your one-time PIN, they still give it out. Yeah. And to me, I say to people, would you ever hand over your ATM card with your PIN written behind it? Probably not, right?
Only to my wife.
I don't even do that, Phil. And so but you're doing that when you give them they know your phone number, and that you give them your Gcash PIN. You've given them access to the whole thing, right? Yeah. Or your one-time PIN that you receive, right? Despite the fact we say to people, we don't verify accounts, right? They still fall for it, whether it's on email or SMS. And it's just unfortunate. Yeah.
Well, it's going to happen. We just have to keep on educating.
People have to be very vigilant. The minute someone asks you for that information, you know it's a scam, right?
Great, Ernest. Well, thank you. We're running out of time here. I wish we had more. I know you're a busy guy today. But maybe if you have some final words for the participants today, be happy to take your last words here.
I think I want to pick up off your statement about Globe being a technology or digital platform. I think that's the next phase of where we're trying to transform into. We're driven by the fact that the country today still needs a lot of digital services to be able to improve people's lives. We want to create the same effect that we had created with Gcash. Interesting thing is that 2-3 years ago, people did not think they need Gcash, right? I was the only evangelist speaking about it, probably, and saying, this guy's nuts, man. I don't need Gcash. What are you talking about? I don't need that stuff. And today you get comments like, how could I have lived without Gcash, right? But there are many more instances in this country that these type of services are needed in the area of healthcare, area of education, in the area of B2B, small business services. And what you can expect from Globe is continuous innovation, continuous incubation to be able to deliver and hopefully lift our people and our industries out of this set of doldrums that we have, right? I think it's only through digital that we kind of level the playing field with everybody out there. And hopefully Globe can play a very big role in doing that. So hopefully watch out for us. There'll be more coming. 3,600 should not be the peak. I've seen an analyst report of a target of 4,100, which is I'm very happy because it's the first time in my career I've seen it break 4,000. I didn't imagine we get to 3,600, to be honest with you. Right? I thought at 2,800 I was done. So
well,
the next active day.
As my old boss used to tell me, Ernest, your success is your burden. Your starting point now is 3,200. So the next 10 years is going to be pretty exciting, I think. Yeah. But congratulations to Globe. Congratulations to you. Fantastic run, and I wish you all the best moving forward, and that we get more investors as well invested in markets around the world through Gcash.
All right. Well, thanks for the opportunity to share our experience as well and our history a little bit. Yeah.
Well, we're happy shareholders and looking to maybe add some positions now. We'll see.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ernest. And do I take it back to you?
All right. Yes, Phil. Once again, thank you very much to Phil and Mr. Ernest Cu for that very insightful conversation you have shared with us all today. And of course, we'd like to thank our audience. We appreciate you taking the time to join us. Please stay tuned to find out if you're the winner in today's raffle. I'm sure you guys are interested to learn more about how to invest in ATRAM funds. Please tune in to know more.
Hello. To open an account with ATRAM, just visit our website at www.atram.com.ph. Here, you can learn more about all the funds and services that we offer. Our site will then guide you to our online investment platform, Seedbox, where you can start investing for just 1,000 pesos. But if you have more questions, visit the website's Frequently Asked Questions page or ATRAM Academy page. Thank you.
There you go. If you have any further questions or would like to know more about ATRAM, please visit our website. That's www.atram.com.ph. In case you have not registered for our next webinar, Mr. Phillip Hagedorn, ATRAM's Chief Investment Officer, together with ATRAM's Head of Macro and Sustainability Research, Mr. Jose Marie Lacson, and ATRAM's Sustainability Research Associate, Miguel de la Cruz, are set to share ATRAM's insights and their outlook for markets going into 2022 on how we can further navigate this year with confidence. You may do so by scanning the QR code, or you may also type in the link flashed on your screen. If you have any friends who you think would like this webinar but are unable to attend, feel free to share the YouTube replay of this session. Visit our YouTube channel, that's at ATRAM Studio. Also, would like to invite everyone to join ATRAM's official Viber community group. That's #ATRAMPH community to stay updated on the latest announcements, advisories, and reminders. Scan the QR code or visit the link found on your screen and get a chance to win ATRAM merchandise. Lastly, please answer the survey at the end of this webinar. Would love to know your thoughts on today's topic. On behalf of everyone here at ATRAM, thank you very much again for your attendance and participation. We wish you and your loved ones continued health and safety. Have a great day ahead, everyone.